Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to cut through all the noise about what it really takes to start a career in data. Forget that long list of complex tools you think you need to learn. We're going to focus on the essentials, the things that truly deliver the most impact. Okay, so let's jump right in with this really powerful idea from the field. It's the 80-20 rule, and honestly, it's kind of your secret weapon. You don't need to be a math genius to be effective in data. You just have to get really good at the fundamentals that do most of the heavy lifting. So, what are those core skills, right? What's in that 20% that does 80% of the work? Well, it turns out the secret isn't about memorizing a ton of tools. It's really about understanding how three fundamental pieces of the puzzle fit together to solve actual business problems. You see, real data analysis happens right where these three things meet. First up, business logic. That's just knowing your field, understanding how a hotel works or what makes a movie studio tick. Then you've got your basic math and stats. Seriously, we're talking about percentages, averages, sums. And finally, you have the tools like Excel or SQL to actually work with the data. It's the combination of these three that creates the magic. And this is where that magic really starts. When you blend that business logic with some simple math, you create KPIs. Key performance indicators. You should think of these as the vital signs of a business. Things like revenue or profit. They're what tell you in plain numbers, hey, are we winning or are we losing? Okay, so with that foundation in mind, let's talk about our first essential tool. And no, it's not some super complex, crazy expensive software. We're talking about the undisputed champion, the #1 tool for hands-on data analysis. Good old Microsoft Excel.
I'm serious. Mastering Excel is the first and I'd say most crucial step for anyone who wants to be a data professional. It's the gateway. It's where you're going to get your hands dirty with data that you can actually see and, touch.
Let's make this real with an example you could literally build yourself right now. Just tracking your monthly expenses. You've got your dates, the items, different categories, and the amounts. It's a basic, clean data set, and it is the perfect playground to start learning on. And this is probably the single most important tip for anyone starting with Excel. Please, don't just type into cells. Take your data and convert it into a formal Excel table. This one move unlocks a whole new level of power. Suddenly, your formulas are readable, they update automatically when you add new data, and you get all these advanced features. It's a total game changer.
I mean, just look at that. The difference is night and day, right? A formula that reads like a sentence is not just cleaner. It represents a massive leap forward in building analysis that's reliable, scalable, and that anyone on your team can actually understand.
Okay, so Excel is perfect for data that you already have, like on your own computer. But what about all that data that companies have? The massive stuff stored in their systems. To get that data, we need to learn how to speak its language. And that brings us to our next essential tool. Just imagine for a second a grocery store's data file, where every single time a customer buys a candy bar, the file repeats their full name, address, and email. It's a mess, right? Super redundant, totally inefficient. Well, databases solve this problem by organizing data into separate but linked tables. All the customer info goes in one place. All the item info goes in another. Everything is clean, organized, and way easier to manage. This organized structure is great. It's powerful. But it brings up a whole new question, doesn't it? How do you actually talk to these tables to ask for the specific information you need?
The answer is SQL. SQL, or SQL, if you prefer. Think of the database as this massive, perfectly organized library. SQL is the very specific, crystal clear note you write down and hand to the librarian. It tells them exactly what you need, no matter how many different shelves that information is on.
Let's see this in action. It's actually pretty straightforward. So, say in our movie dataset, we have one table, and this one has the basics: the movie title, the industry it's from, and a unique movie ID. And then, over here, we have a completely separate table for the financials, with the budget and revenue for each film. But notice the key thing, they're both linked by that same movie ID. The data is separate, but it's connected. To get the whole story, we've got to bring them together. So how do we do that? Well, the SQL command is called a join, and it really is the magic wand here. It tells the database, hey, look for the movie ID in both tables, and then stitch together the rows that match.
Just like that. You get the title from one table and the financial data from the other, all in one nice, clean view.
All right, now it's time to bring it all home, because the ultimate goal isn't just to pull some numbers with our tools. It's to turn that raw data into a story, a narrative that can actually drive business decisions.
So we're going to tackle a real business question. How is Marvel Studios actually doing? First, we'll use SQL to join our tables, then we filter it down to just the Marvel movies. After that, we aggregate the data, sum it all up, to get the total revenue and budget. And finally, we just do some simple math to calculate the profit.
And after all that, we can build a simple P&L, a profit and loss summary that looks something like this. Now, take a look. What's the story here? I mean, yeah, they beat their profit target, which is awesome, but look closer. What's the real insight on this slide?
It's this number, right here, 49%. That single metric, their market share, tells a much bigger story. It's something any executive can understand in about 2 seconds, without needing to see all the spreadsheets behind. And that, right there, is the entire point. Your job as a data analyst isn't done when you find the numbers. It's done when you translate those numbers into a powerful sentence. Marvel's revenue is almost half of Hollywood's. That's an insight. That's what gets people to act. So let's just quickly recap our journey here. We've built a really solid foundation, haven't we? We went from the core concepts to using 2 essential tools, Excel and SQL, and we used them to find a real, genuine business insight. So just remember, this path, start with the why, that's the 80-20 rule, then move to the what, that's Excel for getting your hands dirty, then the how, SQL for getting the data you need, and finally, the big payoff, combining it all to build a story. And that leaves us with one last thought. A question for your data, sure, but it's also a question for your own learning journey. Now that you know how to ask, what's your next query? Thanks for watching The Explainer.